Playing Neural Cloud convinced me of something that I had no idea was a topic that was even up for discussion: smoothness and transition between menus. Never have I played a gacha game that allowed for me to seamlessly move between screens like this game does, which left me thinking to myself, if Neural Cloud can offer such a substantially improved user experience, why can't other games? Because after having experienced this firsthand, I dare say this should 100% be the standard moving forward. Hey, my name is Stix and welcome back to another episode of the Worst Gacha Ever. The purpose of the Worst Gacha Ever series is not to solely criticize a game, nor is it to praise it unconditionally. Rather, this video series exists as a means with which to both critique and complement various facets of a gacha game that I experienced over a set period of time. Sometimes days, sometimes months. If you enjoy this series, make sure to like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification because YouTube told me that if you don't, well, your user experience is going to continue to suck. Oh, and make sure to check out the last episode in this series at the end of the video. Before we jump into this video though, I do want to thank all of our incredible patrons over on Patreon. You guys do not need to support Mrs. Stix and I, but you still choose to, and trust me, it is appreciated beyond anything I can convey verbally. You guys are incredible, and admittedly, if you have a moment, follow Mrs. Stix and I over on Twitter. We'd really appreciate that. When Neural Cloud was being advertised, it was advertised as an auto chess game. At the time, I had no idea what that meant, and after having played this game for well over a week now, I still have no idea what that means. From what I played, I'd be more apt to label this as a tactical RPG, with players utilizing a plethora of different abilities, field effects, and levels of strategy and forethought that I admittedly just did not possess. Like this. Come on, what in my history online makes you think that I am remotely capable of remembering this shit? I love strategy games, I do, but more simple ones like Fire Emblem or Arknights. Having to pay attention to all of these different tile types, these enemy effects, these ally bonuses, it was a little bit overwhelming, but I wasn't off-put by it. And while I paid attention to a percentage, I did brute force my way through the rest with sheer power. Neural Cloud is a chapter and mission-based strategy RPG. There is no open world to freely traverse and explore. Rather, you progress through a series of missions per chapter. Half of them are combat missions and the other half are story missions. There didn't seem to be any story connected to specific missions, neither before stages nor after. Missions were a little more complex than what I'm typically used to. You choose to deploy a set number of units. This continues to expand as you progress through the game and unlock additional features, after which you're taken to a grid that expands both horizontally and vertically. You move horizontally across the grid, selecting whether to engage in battles with enemies, to seek out cards that power you up, buy and sell via the trading post, until inevitably making your way to the final encounter of each respective stage, the boss. Boss fights were really no different to normal encounters, albeit they had additional HP and damage output. Although I feel as though the main story isn't really where the difficulty is located, there are other games that pose significantly more challenge, like this. A seemingly endless selection of stages that continue to get progressively more difficult with each stage cleared. I had the belief that this would be easier than it ultimately ended up being, and learned rather quickly that that was just not the case. By the time I'd cleared the first 30 floors, I was sitting at near death every encounter, something that I would definitely not opt to do again with the knowledge that I now possess. Combat itself is rather basic. You let your units move around the field and engage the enemies that they want. You can alter their target directly if you want to, specifying more important targets like ranged enemies or objects. Otherwise, your husbandos and waifus will rapidly circle the small field looking for new enemies to murder. The cards you get between battles have a direct effect on your units, improving their damage to targets beneath 50%, providing leech to your guards, increasing the heals per second from supports, allowing you to one-tap walls and obstacles. This adds so much depth and so many layers to an already fairly deep game. This depth is further expanded upon via its story. I'm not sure if I'm the only one, but I honestly wasn't too impressed with it after having played through Path to Nowhere and Nikke recently, which both have their flaws granted. I was a little spoiled by high-quality voice acting and a narrative that enthralled me. Unfortunately, the voice acting in Neural Cloud is severely limited, which kind of detracts from the immersion you would otherwise feel. I like that most gacha games these days, the higher quality ones at least, all provide narratives that are brought to life through A-tier voice actors. Outside of the story and the gameplay, content is about what you'd expect. You have your own base of operations that you continue to upgrade progressively over time. You have resource stages to farm things like currency, XP to level your husbandos and waifus, limit break them so they become more powerful. I'll admit though, that to make the game a little bit easier, I did opt to pay for a couple different packs. I'm nowhere near being a whale in my games, but if I'm going to be playing something for an extended period of time, I will make sure to spend a few dollars on it to make my life in said game easier. So I spent approximately $40, which allowed for me to upgrade quite a few of my characters to a level of power I realistically should not have possessed. But this made it much easier for me to complete stages and allowed for the completion at a substantially increased rate. And given I was enjoying what I was playing, I think that easily warranted the minor investment. And unlike Tower Fantasy a couple months ago, Neural Cloud, upon making purchases, didn't immediately have my bank account locked. Speaking of financial investments though, the gacha in this game is incredibly fair. By the time that I was done recording this video, I had 86% of the total number of characters unlocked, and that was with average levels of luck. If RNGs loved me, I would have had guaranteed 3-star units every pull. Alas, that was just not the case. However, pity is very low. If you haven't received a 3-star within 60 pulls, you're guaranteed one upon hitting that cap. This is how I secured Aki and Hubble, the two banner heroes that are currently available. Obtaining husbandos and waifus is incredibly easy, and Neural Cloud is arguably one of the releases this year with better rates. Could it be better? Sure. But the only gacha off the top of my head with better rates than this is Punishing Grey Raven. I will note that pity does reset after obtaining a 3-star hero though, so if you don't get the banner character after 60 pulls, you'll need to try again. Honestly, I wanted to poke fun at this game, I genuinely did. I went into this game with very low expectations, but I really found nothing to poke fun at really worthy of making fun of. Well, unless you enter the dorms. Upon beginning the game, you're given the option of selecting between a male and a female avatar. Naturally, I chose female because I'm not crazy, but seeing yourself move around how adorable we are is the highlight of playing. And seeing some of the things that the characters say is actually a little disturbing at times. Like look at V right there telling me nobody is born looking perfect. Is that a personal jab at me? She's saying that I look ugly. I need to comb my hair. Do I need to wear more makeup? Is my lab coat not ironed out adequately? Are my nails not painted? What does she want from me? Okay, you know what? This right here, this is a lot less vague and a lot more specific. Reconstruct a person entirely. If that right there is not definitive proof of what is wrong with me physically, aesthetically, then I don't know what is. Allowing your units to occupy rooms like this can lead to some very interesting interactions and conversations and provides a little depth into their personalities. Or you could just go to the Dole info section where you have the option of leveling them, limit breaking them, increasing their power through neural expansion, raising their intimacy, upgrading their skills, reading personnel files, and learning about them via their own personal stories. Honestly, at the end of the day, Neural Cloud is a tremendous amount of fun to play. This is a surprisingly high quality game that offers a fun, engaging experience for players looking for something new to waste some time in. Is it the best gacha to release this year? Not at all. I found myself more engaged in both Nikke despite its issues and Path to Nowhere, but as a side game that doesn't require extensive amounts of time to enjoy, this is a fantastic option. I'm not the only person that believes so, as Neural Cloud has been a hit amongst players all over the internet. Cute characters, engaging combat, a decent story at times. This is the perfect B-tier game. Not perfect overall, but surprisingly pleasant. Now, if you're looking for the previous episode in the Worst Gacha Ever series, you can find that via this video right here, or if you're looking for a list of the most populated gacha games right now, then this video right here is what you're after.